What up, everybody? This your boy, the Black Akashi, and I figured it was time I gave out my top 10 video games of all time. And before I get to that, I just want to say thank you to everyone for watching my videos. It really means a lot to me. And it might not get a lot of views, but the views actually matter to me. So I really humbly appreciate you guys for that. Okay, enough of the chick flick moments. Shout out to Supernatural. Let's get to it. Number 10, Def Jam Fight for New York. This game right here is the pinnacle of gaming when it comes to black people. Now, I'm not saying only black people played this game, but black people were playing the fuck out of this game. Picture all of the hottest rappers in the game beating the fuck out of each other like basically like a wrestling game. Now, I remember playing this game on multiple occasions. Like, this game has hella replay value because of the multiple fighting styles in it and the ability to create your own character. This game practically helped me make friends, who I'm still cool with to this day. I remember during Hurricane Katrina, I'm from Louisiana, my cousins were staying at our house because we had moved out of New Orleans like a year or so before it. And we played that game religiously, bruh. But all that changed when the power went out. Yeah, after that, we just had to go back to the roots of having fun and entertaining ourselves. Now, I played this game on the PlayStation, the Xbox, and the PSP. I deeply regret not owning my PSP or my old consoles anymore because I really miss playing this game. And I don't really see EA bitch asses remastering it or remaking it anytime soon. Like, out of all the games in the world, this is the one that I would love for it to be remastered or remade with online playability and stuff. I would literally watch my boy Chase Money's walk through the game whenever I get that nostalgia feeling.
Man, stop! Oh my fucking god, man!
Number 9, Halo Reach. Now, I could have went and put Halo Combat Evolved on the list because that was the very first Halo game I ever played, and I had so much fun playing that game with my god brother. Like, we would be up all night playing that game, just co-op and multiplayer. Well, not multiplayer, just going at each other. We had so much fun, bro. But Halo Reach was where the Halo god was born and friendships were made. The story of the last Spartans before Master Chief awakened. It introduced a lot of the things you see in current Halo games today when it comes to multiplayer. I remember all the fun times I had with my friends playing Reach, man. I remember one memory specifically. Story time. Me and the homies were playing Firefight, and other modes on a Saturday night. I'm talking like we pulled the freaking all-nighter. Now, I think that was like the first time I ever did an all-nighter, and that shit was insane because I can't even do that shit anymore. Sleep over everything, my G. Anyway, we played till like 5 or 6 in the morning, and the thing that made it worse was that a nigga had to go to church at like 7 or 8. I was so mad, bro, because it was like I couldn't tell my parents, "Hey, I just pulled an all-nighter playing video games with my friends, and I'm tired as fuck. Can I miss church today?" Because black people, you can't miss church unless the parents do it with you. If I had told them that, the first thing they would have done was say, "You going to church regardless. I don't care if you had 5 minutes of sleep, you going." And then they would have taken my game from me. Only black people or strict parents or people that have strict parents know what I'm talking about. Anyway, this is one of the only Halo games that I would play, and it'll always hold a special place in my heart. Remember Reach. Number 8, Destroy All Humans. Now, unlike Def Jam, this game is actually getting a remake, which is coming out next year. This is one of those goofy games that went hard for no reason. Like, I don't even know how I was introduced to this game, but all I know is that I'm glad I was. It's basically an alien coming to Earth doing, you guessed it, destroying all humans. This game takes place in the 50s, so don't expect any black people in it. I always felt like this is one of those games that was never talked about enough, despite having multiple sequels. I remember when people would ask me what was one of my favorite games, and I would tell them Destroy All Humans, and they'd be like, "Yeah, I really love that game." And I'd be like, "Wow, I thought I was the only one that played that shit." Hopefully the remake does good sales wise, so that we can get the Straw Humans 2 remade as well. Because as much as I love the first game, the sequel was amazing as well. Number 7, the Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3. Now this game right here is a top 5 video game, one of my top 5 video games in my honest opinion. But due to the games that are actually in my top 5, it's gonna have to go a little lower. One of the best and the most popular Dragon Ball games in the history of Dragon Ball games. Yes, I know how great the Tenkaichi series was, but I never played the third one, so I can't really give Tenkaichi 3 the title of best Dragon Ball game. This game packs heavy nostalgia. From the soundtrack to the opening credits when you start the game, it was one of the first Dragon Ball games to introduce the Ultra Instinct dodging mechanics, long before Dragon Ball Super introduced it, and the Beam Clash system that we've seen so many times in the anime. Like, that was actually one of my favorite things to do in the game was whenever I was playing against the computer or my friends, I charge up a Kamehameha and they'd charge up a Gala gun or whatever beam they wanted to use, and we just spin the fuck out of that analog stick. You didn't play that game hard enough if you haven't broken your analog stick. The first game to actually introduce Broly versus Gogeta long before the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie did, and ended in the same way with a Kamehameha. Like, I wish this game was backwards compatible on the Xbox One so that I can play it, but I'm grateful for still having my 360 so that I can play that and Rage and Blast whenever I want to. Side note, I also want to point out that Dragon Ball Z Burst Limit was a criminally underrated game and deserves a sequel. It was the closest to a Budokai game, besides Infinite World, but I never played that game, and it deserves another shot in the next gen. Number 6, Uncharted 2. One of the biggest franchises that Sony owns, and hopefully never let those Xbox bums get a taste of it. Like, I don't know why they made Kingdom Hearts 3 playable on the Xbox when they didn't even release Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 as well, so that they know what the hell the story's about. Because I played like the first 5-10 minutes of the game and Kingdom Hearts 3, and I didn't see a recap or nothing. So I don't know why they didn't do that. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Anyway, what more can I say about this game that you don't already know? From the opening sequence with the train, the story, the way the game played. Like, this game will forever be the most talked about game just because of that train sequence alone. And it was recent, a couple weeks ago, or a couple days ago, it was the anniversary of Uncharted 2. So, happy anniversary to that. But Uncharted basically took what Tomb Raider did and somehow made it a better game. And that's why with the reboots of the Tomb Raider games, that's why they are very similar to the Uncharted franchise, and they're really good as well. Number 5, Bloodborne. The first From Software game that I ever played and one of my favorite exclusives on the PS4. Now, I had a love-hate relationship with this game. I loved it because, I was in love with the design and art of the game, with all of the H.P. Lovecraft inspiration and all of the mechanics of the game. Like, I love seeing every trailer of it. Like, I remember the Honest Game trailer for it. It said this game is for people that hate Dark Souls, but that hate Dark Souls but want to play Dark Souls. Like, that was like one of the main reasons why I hated Dark Souls, to be honest, because it wasn't really my style. And then when I saw Bloodborne, I was like, this fast-paced action game. I was like, wow, this shit looks fun. And now, the reason why I hate it was because of how hard it was. As I said, this was the first Souls game I ever played, so bear with me. I remember renting this game from Gamefly during the spring or summer of 2014 or 2015, and I remember being so hyped about it. Like, I was finally getting ready to play it, and I was so excited. And then when I played it, I fucking sucked. Like, I kept dying and dying non-stop. I couldn't even make it past the part where all of the monsters were walking towards that bonfire in the beginning of the game, and I raged so bad. Like, I brought that game back literally the next day. But my mind was constantly telling me, After all the games you played, you gonna let this one beat you? Come on. I trained you better than that. So, long story short, I ordered it again in November, and I played the fuck out of it. That Thanksgiving weekend, and I fell in love with it and the rest of the game. The rest of the Souls games. I beat it. I beat that game so fast, bro. Like, most of the YouTubers that I'm subscribed to today, like the Gamer 2323, um anybody else, any other YouTubers that played Bloodborne, they're like one of the reasons why I'm subscribed to them in the first place, because they played Bloodborne. And some YouTubers that have recently played Sekiro, they're the reason why I subscribe to them as well. I just wanted to point that out. Like, this will always be a top 5 PlayStation game for me, and a top 5 game to me in general. And I hope we get a Bloodborne too. Number 4, Alan Wake. Alan freaking Wake. Now, this game was one of the very first horror games that I ever played. It's a psychological thriller and a third-person shooter. It was made by Remedy, the guys that created the Max Payne series. So you know that the story was going to be crazy. Basically, imagine Max Payne with horror. Now, I bought this game on its day one launch, which was the same day as Red Dead Redemption's release date as well. And I'll never forget that. I mean, I didn't get Red Dead till it was like $24, $25 at GameStop, so I didn't have a problem waiting for it. It started the whole episodic series trend that you see in Telltale games and other episodic like games. The only difference is that it was all in one game. Now, I fell in love with this game so freaking fast just because of the story, the characters, and the soundtrack, and many other things as well. Like, I play this game every single year, whether it be in October or some other random month. I play it. It really deserves a sequel because all of the other Remedy games that, have been coming out haven't really been up to par. I mean, after they showed the gameplay of the sequel that was supposed to happen, and they said that this sequel right here, that the gameplay, it led to Quantum Break. I was like, you gonna waste that heat? You gonna waste that heat for Quantum Break? I mean, I like Quantum Break. So I haven't played Control. I'm not. Quantum Break was the only reason why I wanted to get an Xbox One in the first place. Like, I did not get an Xbox One until Quantum Break came out. Like, I'm not even bullshitting, because Xbox didn't have any exclusives. So what was the point of me getting that when I could just play the other games on the PlayStation, which had exclusives as well? Anyway, the gameplay of the sequel showed what was supposed to happen. When they showed that, I was so heartbroken and how amazing it was. And all of the mechanics that were introduced in it, like the way the enemies interacted with the environment was so perfect and chilling. It was like literally scary. Like, I could imagine myself getting scared about this shit, like how the way they were moving. Like, one enemy could throw an axe from like 10 miles away, and another enemy could pick it up right out of the wall of the car, wherever it was thrown and landed at. And then you could rewrite reality. Just talking about it makes me so sad, man. Like, let me stop talking about the sequel and talk about the first game. Like, everything about this game was so amazing. Like, this is one of the games where I love everything about it and never skip a single thing from it. Like, I even stick around and watch the Night Spring episodes. The soundtrack is beautiful as well. I have it on my phone, bro. That's how amazing it is. I downloaded that thing. I downloaded that junk, and I was like, psh, I'm bumping this shit regardless. I'll be bumping that shit in the trap when I'm cooking up an ounce. I'm just playing. I don't live in the trap. I don't have no trap. I ain't no trap. Just in case the feds were listening. I literally 100%ed this game on numerous times and beat it on the hardest difficulty, which was a pain in the ass, might I add. I even have all the DLC and American Nightmare. A cult classic that'll never die, and I'll keep supporting Remedy until we get that sequel. Alan, wake up. Number 3. The Last of Us. One of the greatest games of the last gen and in gaming history. Another hit from the legendary Naughty Dog studio. This game right here was the reason I wanted a PS4 in the first place. I remember my friend telling me how amazing it was, and I was a broke boy back in the day. And the only time I was able to play a PS3 was whenever I visited my brother. So I didn't really get to play all the great PS3 games because all my friends were on the Xbox, so I didn't really have anything to worry about. But once they dropped that remastered version on the PS4, I got that game from Gamefly so freaking fast. From the opening sequence alone, I was hooked. Like the dynamic story between Ellie and Joel is so amazing. Like if you never played it, then shame on you. And if you ever played, Telltale's Walking Dead Season 1, think of Clementine and Lee's relationship in that game and put it in The Last of Us. In this apocalyptic world, scarcity is a major necessity. Like, if you run into an area with no ammo or health packs, then you better pray or use them hands. With a lot of jaw-dropping and heartwarming moments, this game definitely deserves the praise it gets and the title of Game of the Decade. And with the highly anticipated sequel coming, the hype is very real. Number 2, God of War. Another PlayStation exclusive that I didn't get to play. Now, when I say that, I mean God of War 1, God of War 2, and God of War 3. I didn't play God of War 3 until it was remastered, because I had a 360, so that's all. I didn't have a PS3, I only had a 360. So, I finally got to play God of War 3 remastered. Tongue twister. And, I finally understood the hype of why people love God of War. And then when God of War 4 was announced, I was so freaking hyped. This game is so damn good and amazing, from the storytelling, the environment, and characters. Like, this was definitely another game of the decade. Like, the fighting style was kind of similar to the Souls games, and the bosses definitely were like that. Especially with the Valkyries. Mainly the Valkyrie Queen. I feel like all the other Valkyries were easy. The only one that was a problem was the one in the poison field, because by the time you get to her, your health would be at like half the way, half, and make it a pain in the ass. Now the Valkyrie Queen was a nightmare because that was worse than Ishin, Guardian Ape, Demon of the Hatred, and any Bloodborne boss. Like, I threw my controller because of that bitch, and I can't wait to beat her up again in the new game plus. I really love how Kratos was more matured in this game, but still the badass that we know and love. And the tease at the end of the game was major hype. And now, my number 1 game of all time is none other than one of the greatest sci-fi games in history. You already know what I'm talking about. Mass Effect 2. Come on. Now I could cheat and include all 3 games because that's how much I love this franchise. But I'll go ahead and be humble and just include only one of them. This was the very first Mass Effect game I played. And I wasn't even a Mass Effect fan when the series was popping around the time, in 2009 or whatever. Like, I remember borrowing it from my friend and playing that shit religiously. I was always fascinated by the world of Mass Effect and the characters in it. If I wanted to live in a video game world, I would want to live in the Mass Effect universe. It's the only place where you could clap them alien cheeks. Shout out to Area 51. Y'all bums never rated it. Like, okay, side note, the whole Area 51 thing, like, I didn't care if nobody got any aliens or anything. I would have just been heavily disappointed if nobody pulled up. Like, how many people signed up for that shit? Like 5 billion or whatever? A lot of people signed up for, like, over millions upon millions of people, and only like 5 people showed up. Like, come on. Like, I know it was a joke and all that, but at least you could have pulled up. That's all I would have cared about. As long as y'all would have pulled up, that's all that would have mattered to me. You ain't had to rate it. Anyway, you could literally create bonds with every single person you meet with in the game, and I just love talking to every single person that I could, just so that I could hear the dialogue. And another one of my favorite things was punching that reporter. Like, no matter how Paragon I would punch her regardless. From the opening sequence, you're immediately hooked. The GOAT Commander Shepard once again has to fight another threat to the galaxy that has ties with the main villain of the whole series. Now, the final mission is one of my all-time favorite memories with this game because the first time I played it by which characters that I liked and who I was cool with. If I recall, the first part where one person has to crawl through the corridors, it was between Talia and Thane, and I chose Talia instead of Thane. Now, nothing bad happened till I got to the biotic part. I chose Miranda instead of Samara, who is, by the way, the most powerful biotic in the crew. I chose Miranda because I had a relationship with her, and that was bae, and I was clapping them cheeks. But once I got one of my crew members killed, I restarted that whole mission and said, Miranda, I love you, but I can't let that pussy jeopardize the mission. That's an important lesson in life, folks. Remember that. I replayed the Mass Effect trilogy non-stop. Like, despite all the crap the third one gets, I love it just as much as I love 1 and 2. And I consider Mass Effect one of the greatest trilogies in gaming history. Now, BioWare has been falling off lately, but I think, like most companies that have been, a part of our childhood, I believe they have the potential to make a comeback and drop a fire game. But, because of EA, Activision, or whoever, they be on that bullshit, they be getting in the way of that. Now, this game will always be, my Hall of Fame game right here. I thought about adding, honorable mentions as well on the list because of how many top tier games we have, we grew up with and we've played. So let me know what's your favorite video games, and if you liked what you saw, hit the like button, share, subscribe, and I'll see you later.
No threat, I was born with it like a Mad Max. I destroy niggas to the finish line, nigga. West side of the east side, and this shit on the west side of the east side, and this bitch on the